And hi, Instagram. Hi, Facebook. I'm going to be very quick today. Not a lot of time, but just tune in, get in here, get in here. If this is your first time, say hi. Let me know where you're tuning in from. If you'd like to schedule a consultation, call 407 995 6567. You can also send a WhatsApp message to 404 333 8751. Let me put that in the ticker, or let me pin that. Um, and then those of you on Facebook, you can see like scrolling through the ticker. Same for those of you on YouTube. And if you're on Instagram, I'm pinning it right now. And if you are watching this after my live, you're not going to be able to see this number pinned on Instagram. But once you go into my profile, you should be able to see the phone number. You can also directly schedule a consultation yourself with myself or my associate by using the scheduling link. So today I just want to talk real quick about what happens after the interview and you haven't received anything from immigration. So let's talk about the different scenarios that could present itself, and what should you do if that's the case. So first things first. Gosh, Child said, I love the background. Thank you. I got my wall in the back done just to give you something visually to see. So first things first, there are many reasons why a case can be delayed. So, but typically when I worry or start getting concerned is anything after 6 months. So prior to 6 months, really they have that time to do that investigation or to, go over your case or to ask for something else or whatever the case may be. But after 6 months, I'm usually concerned about a few things. It means that there's something either by virtue of your interview or by your application or your immigration history that either sends you to a fraud unit or sends you to further investigation. So, for example, something that could cause you to go to the fraud unit could be, i.e., maybe you were married before, how many times you were married before, how many times your other spouse was married before, what the age difference is, whether they feel that you and your spouse don't live together or they don't feel your marriage is a legitimate one, they don't feel like it's a good faith marriage. In that case, it can take years even, because sometimes they have to do home visits, they got to do work visits, they got to visit certain people in the family, your landlord, employer, or whatever the case may be, right? So in situations like that, that's what happens. And then other times they're doing background checks, which could be based on like your previous marriages. Are you still married? Where are you living? Do you really live where you say you're living? For a lot of people, if you, let's say you divorce and you don't have an authentic divorce, or if, let's say, when you're coming to the US, you completed a visa application and said you were married, but you weren't really married, and then you're filing here and saying, you're saying that this is your first spouse, so investigation is usually done trying to understand, well, if this is your first spouse, how come in your B1, B2 visa, you said you were married? Because, a lot of people get pressured into lying on their applications for visitors visa by lying and saying they're married because they've told them that if they don't say that, they're not going to get approved for B1, B2. But this usually comes to haunt you, so don't do it. I'm trying to think of what other categories off the top of my head, but generally it's based around most of the time bona fide good faith marriage and ineligibility because maybe you were not free to enter. Um, you know, so in those cases, one of the things that you would find when you start to see the delay after 6 months is, one, you want to always prepare for a Stokes interview. And a Stokes interview is when they separate the two of you and your spouse, and really going to depth on questions that they ask you about your personal lives or whatever it is that is causing them to feel suspicious. Sometimes, if it's because of a previous spouse, that also causes them to look in to see, okay, was that relationship legitimate? And like I've always told you guys, you can't table under the rug a sham marriage and think that, okay, if I marry somebody else, everything is going to be good, because USCIS is going to go back to the original. Like, so if let's say you applied for a green card the first time and they denied you because they didn't believe your marriage was legitimate, they're not going to move on to this new person that you have 3 kids with. They're going to go back to that old person and say, before we can approve this, we need to still prove that that was a bona fide good faith marriage and you didn't just enter it for immigration purposes. So, before you jump into another relationship, if you're in one that has a denial based on them not feeling that you had a bona fide marriage or good faith marriage, you want to definitely attack that and address that and appeal that or refile or whatever the case may be, just to increase your chances with the current spouse. So real quick, let's talk about some things that you can do if your cases are delayed. And let's say that's not one of the reasons, or it's just delayed. First thing you can do, of course, is a service inquiry request. And you can do that via phone or online. Usually you can check for your dates at USCIS website. Just check the processing time based on your service center and your receipt. If your service center and your receipt align, saying basically that you've passed processing time, then you can send an email, send a service inquiry, to USCIS directly online, asking for the status of your case or what's going on. You can also try calling them via phone. Of course, it's very difficult to get people on the phone, but you can certainly try that. If neither of the two work, then you definitely want to go into congressional assistance. Congressional assistance is effective. Sometimes you might have, right now, depending on, with politics and the elections coming up in November, some of the offices might have congressional congressmen and women that are leaving offices or are being, voted into office. So some of them are like resigning or whatever the case may be, or, moving on. So depending on that determines the efficiency, basically, of your congressional assistance. And also depending on the persuasion of who your local congressman or woman is. Some Congress offices are not the best, for lack of a better word, like where basically they just ignore you and just leave your stuff there and don't do anything. So it's always good to check, with either your Congress office or senator to find out who is likely to be the most proactive in getting you what it is that you need. And then if congressional assistance doesn't work, you can then try the ombudsman. With the ombudsman, starting this year, they don't prioritize just a delay in processing as they used to before. They focus more on other things, but ombudsman is not a physical human being, but it's a division within USCIS that help you to try to push a decision, and whether that's good or bad, but just give us a decision, instead of just keeping somebody in limbo. So those are all some things that you can do. Another thing is, for some clients, when they come to me, let's say they file a case themselves, or they had an attorney and they come to me because maybe the case had been delayed for like a super long time and they didn't know what's going on. The first thing I usually want to do is I want to do a FOIA, like just so that I can get a sense of what was in their application, number one, and two, what happened at the interview. A lot of times the government will redact, which is that they'll cover certain things so you can't see those things, but I take what I can get just to, first of all, figure out what is the issue. What is the issue? And then if there's no issue, then we can go with full gusto to say, get this stuff for this client, get them appealed. And then, of course, if the ombudsman does not work, the next option is a threat to sue the government and to actually eventually sue. I know a lot of people are like scared, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to sue immigration, whatever the case may be, but sometimes that is what is necessary to get that case moving or that decision. So that was it. that I want to talk about. I have about 8 minutes, so let me just take some questions. So Godchild says, when I checked my I-485 case online, it says fingerprint was updated. What does that mean? It just means that they're most likely probably going to be calling you for some sort of decision. I'm not decision, like some sort of interview or something of that sort. Like either if you had like if I don't know what case you have pending, but let's say you have a case pending, you know, and maybe you did biometrics a long time ago, and they can either update. Let's say, for instance, gotcha. I don't know what kind of case you have, but I'm going to use, for example, some of my own personal clients. Like, so we had some clients today that actually got this. And those clients are VAWA clients who actually have an approved VAWA case. So typically when you see that, it's because they're either trying to either using the biometrics that they did originally when they initially submitted it, or they're going to be requesting a new biometrics so that they can schedule them for their interview, or sometimes shortly thereafter, they will get called for an interview. But it's not something to overthink. It's just to either do a biometrics bypass, update it with the bypass so you don't have to do one, and stuff like that. So some Bob says, after 6 months, the case is being investigated by the fraud department. Not always, but after 6 months, it's definitely a source of concern, you know, for me with my clients, that something is not good. Sometimes we've seen 6 months where it's because they don't have 6 months when they don't have a legitimate divorce. And Tom Bob, I don't know if you just tuned in, but I'm specifically, because you said, what about backlog? I'm specifically talking about after your interview has been scheduled and done, not before. So after your interview has been scheduled and done, and they're capable of making a decision then, and they still haven't. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So let's take some cases on Instagram. Oh, thank you guys for buying the badges. I don't even know what those mean, but thanks. Let's see. So can an F2 individual not out of status due to divorce adjust status to become a student? So you're not talking of being the child of an F1 student visa holder. I'm going to assume that you're talking about being a spouse of a green card holder. If you're the spouse of a green card holder and you're out of status, you cannot automatically get a student visa and become in status, because there are only a few categories that allow you to enter another category while you are out of status, which is immediate relatives, visas that are immediately available for immediate relatives, like, you know, children under 21 with U.S. citizen parents, or spouses, or parents who have children that are U.S. citizens and over the age of 21. So for you, you cannot just go in there. You must be in status of some sort to become an F1 student visa holder. So this person said, I applied for the renewal of my EAD and got my new card after 20 days. Does this mean that they are back to normal processing time as before COVID? No, but they're definitely actively working on it. Like, we're definitely seeing some people getting it super early. Even prior to COVID, 20 days is not really early. It's usually 4 to 6 months. But, you know, it's like what I've always told you guys. You know, there's some people who are just really lucky, and scheduling wise, their stuff just gets approved earlier than others. But there's still a backlog. But this is something that they're actively working on. Okay, Godchild says, it's a valid case. My I-360 was approved and I have to send my medical in. My interview was waived. Okay, so then you're good. Congrats. That means that you're you know, so basically you're answering exactly the same thing I said, that typically if you get that, it's because you already have another pending case. And the example I use was I-360s of my own clients. So, you know, so once they look at your biometrics and everything looks good, hopefully you get an approval soon. Okay. I can only take 2 more questions. Tina says, what happens if you only get your work permit but no answer with regards to your travel permit and you applied for both? Nothing, there's nothing wrong with that right now, because part of them clearing the backlog includes them giving work permits, especially in like marriage-based cases. I don't know what kind of case you have, but especially in like marriage-based cases where they would give you the work permit first, and then maybe a few weeks later, a month or two later, they would give you the travel permit. This is just so that, because they understand that it's more important for people to work as opposed to travel. So they're like, okay, in order for us to speed up the process, let us at least approve the work permit, and then we'll then approve the travel permit later. Eduzo says, do you have to have food stamps for you to apply for a work permit? No. First of all, you should not even be on food stamps if you're applying for immigration for a green card, because you're going to be a public charge, because that's a public benefit. You get a work permit if you're eligible for a green card and you apply for something that entitles you to that. And there are obviously some other classes, like, TPS, U visas and stuff like that. But typically something has to entitle you. Oh, and then medical deferred action as well. But something has to entitle you to a work permit, and it is not food stamps. Chanel says, good morning, blessed woman. Thank you, you too. Kiara says, love your hair. Thank you. Okay, my last question. How long does it take after you submit an RFE for medical to get a response if they received it? So you never get a response. Nobody's sending you a letter to let you know that they received anything. You can check online. Sometimes they will post it online. Sometimes they won't post it. But it doesn't mean I didn't get there. The key thing is, if you're sending something to USCIS, you want to make sure that you have your own tracker so that you know that they received it. Okay. All right, guys, I gotta jump off, but it was nice chit-chatting. I'll talk to you guys later. Let me see my schedule tomorrow, if I'll be able to. It's like I have all intentions of getting here, and sometimes you come in here and there's just so much going on, and then I can't get on. But I might be able to get on. If I get on tomorrow, it's going to be at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So join me then. All right, guys, I hope you have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.